I guess you can. Okay, so we're online. Okay. Can you just confirm with the guys that everybody can see us and hear us? We're all good? Yeah. Okay. So I guess we're back in action. So where were we? We were in the article, Raising the Slave Through the Ministers, on page 214. But we're going to read from page 215 from the second paragraph from the top. But hopefully you guys can all see us and hear us by now, right? Yes. Okay. Well, if you can't, let me know. If you can, let me know as well. Okay. So where were we? We said why the Creator was concealed. The reason that he's concealed is that we, with our own free choice, independently, need to come to attain his level, and then reveal him through the same character, the same attributes that he has, and that way we can be in an equal form with him. Because if the Creator created us to do good to us, it means to bring us to perfection. You can't do good to a person if you keep them less than yourself. That's not doing good. So what the Creator wants to do is to bring us to such a level that we are actually as high as he is. But the best way to attain that is by our own effort. So the Kabbalists explain to us how we're going to do that. And here is a nice article. Okay, everything is good, yeah?
Yes, I've got Johan and Luis both said that they can see us.
Okay, great. Okay, good. So page 215, second paragraph from the top. There's an allegory about a king who grew fond of his servant until he wanted to raise him above all the ministers, for he had recognized true and unwavering love in his heart. However, it is not the royal manner to raise one to the highest level all at once, without an apparent reason. Rather, the royal manner is to reveal the reason to all with great wisdom. What did he do? What did the king do? He appointed the servant guard at the city gate and told one of his ministers, who was a clever joker, to pretend to rebel against the kingship and wage war to conquer the house while the guard was unprepared. The minister did as the king had commanded, and with great wisdom and craftiness pretended to fight against the king's house. The servant at the gate risked his life and saved the king, fighting bravely and devotedly against the minister until his great love for the king was evident to all. Then the minister took off his clothes, and there was great laughter, for he had fought so fiercely and bravely, and now realized that there was only fiction here, not reality. They laughed most when the minister told of the depth of the imaginings of his cruelty and the fear he had envisioned. And every item in this terrible war became a round of laughter and great joy. However, he was still a servant. He was not scholarly. And how could he be raised above all the ministers and the king's servants? Then the king thought and said to that minister that he must disguise himself as a robber and a murderer and wage fierce war against him. The king knew that in the second war he would discover a wondrous wisdom and merit standing at the head of all the ministers. Hence he appointed the servant in charge of the king's kingdom's treasury. And that minister now dressed as a ruthless killer and came to loot the king's treasures. The poor appointee fought fearlessly and devotedly until the cup was full. Then the minister took off his clothes again, and there was a great joy and laughter in the king's palace, even more than before. The details of the minister's tricks aroused great laughter, since now the minister had to be smarter than before, because now it was evidently known that no one was cruel in the king's domain, and all the cruel ones were only jokers. Therefore the minister used great craftiness to acquire clothes of evil. Yet in the meantime, the servant inherited wisdom from after knowledge and love from foreknowledge, and then he was erected for eternity. In truth, all the wars in that exile are a wondrous sight, and everyone knows in their kind interior that it is all a kind of wit and joy that brings only good. Still, there is no tactic to ease the weight of the war and the threat. We'll read up to here. What is he trying to tell us in this story? He's saying to us, basically, all the hardships of life are a joke. Everything that makes us feel, suffering, anxiety, stress, all the hardships we go through, everything that we're feeling in life that's hard, that's a struggle, and we don't know why things are happening the way they're happening. It's all confusion. Basically, in this allegory, he's saying this is all a joke. But from this joke, or from this game, let's say a game, we acquire wisdom. We acquire the thought of the one who's playing the game on us. And that's how we really need to relate to life, because at the end of the day, especially if you're a student of Kabbalah, you start to get used to this game. And the Creator kind of tenses you up and brings you to a nice little anxiety level, and just before that breaking level, he'll come and save the day. And that's a very, very sharp felt experience on many of us. The beauty about it is you know about it from before, because after a while, if you study long enough, you get used to these little tricks of the Creator, how he's playing around with you. And this is exactly like the allegory says. The servant is a guard at the gate and somebody's waging war. At that point in time, he's freaking out because somebody's coming to kill him. They're waging war. God knows what's going to happen. So at that moment in time, he's really freaking out. He doesn't know what to do. So he's doing the best he can to get out of that situation and to solve this problem. But having put all his effort in order to do that, in order to complete his job and his mission, he's acquiring a lot of wisdom. And that's what experience is. So in the wisdom of Kabbalah, as we study and we take part in the study, as we begin to mature along the path, we gain experiences that help pave the way to spirituality, to bestowal. And this is exactly what we need to do, because only through this way we're able to build our own existence in spirituality with our own might, without feeling like the Creator is giving us some kind of charity. And this is the whole idea of the situation. This is the whole reason for this setup we have here, because the Creator could have created everything really easy. He could have just created everything, and he could have said, "Hi guys, I'm here. This is my reality. I built everything for you guys. Everything's just honky-dory. Let's just go with it and all be happy." He could have done that as well. However, we would have been nothing different than animals. We would have been just like cats and dogs. We would have just known how to behave because we see the Creator, so nobody wants to do anything wrong. Okay, so everybody wants to act politically correct, let's say. And that's it. There's no freedom there. There's no independence. There's nothing there. You're just like a puppy on a leash. So this is something that the Creator does not want. He wants us to be like Him at His height, at really His level of understanding, seeing and perceiving and being. And this is the whole gist of this allegory. This is why, although we say the Creator is good, in life we, a lot of the times may feel bad. However, this bad, the bad states that we go through, with the whole of humanity actually, okay, because if you look at the world, all of humanity is going through a lot of dramas. This whole process of evil, this whole process of bad things happening, and we're going through them, is simply because we're just growing up like kids in kindergarten. You know, if you notice kids in kindergarten, they run around, and sometimes there's somebody's pulling somebody's hair, somebody's taking somebody else's paper, and they're just arguing about little things and crying and all that kind of stuff. And that's our lives here at our age. Okay, we're running around crying over a lot of stuff, like crying over spilled milk at our age as well. Why? Because simply we can't relate to the things that are happening and what we're supposed to be doing with everything that's happening to us. In order for us to align ourselves to all the events of life and how we can relate to all the events of life in a correct way, so that we can get the maximum wisdom out of it and build ourselves and bring ourselves to that maturity, we need to study the wisdom of Kabbalah. And this is the whole essence of this wisdom, actually, how to adapt ourselves to the reality of the Creator, where we can actually understand everything that's going on in the background. We can understand all the reasons for everything. Right, then anything else? Any other questions?
Nope, so far, that's it.
Either I've done a really good job, explained everything, just like that, or you guys, I don't know, you guys are watching something else on TV. Yeah? Which one of us is wrong? Are you guys watching the TV, or did I just give a wonderful lesson? In 35 minutes, explain to the whole of the planet why the Creator is concealed and He needs to be. Okay, because I know with all the religions, they're asking the same question, aren't they? Well, why isn't the Creator showing Himself? All the religious people are wondering why the Creator doesn't show Himself. All the atheist people say, well, why doesn't He show Himself? Because if He did, we wouldn't have any problems. And everybody is right in their complaints. However, life is not quite as we see it, is it? And this is the gist of it all. As you can see, such a wisdom with answers to everything. If not, we can go on.
Stephen just asked a question.
Yeah.
Stephen says, is the first war against the will to receive is the first war against the will to receive worldly pleasures? Is the first war against the will to receive worldly pleasures, and the second war against the will to receive spiritual pleasures?
No, I wouldn't put it in that way. I wouldn't divide it at all. Let's just be pragmatic, right? Because we don't know what spiritual pleasures are in the first place. Okay, spiritual pleasures are pleasures that we get from being like the Creator. Since we don't know the Creator, we haven't seen Him, and we don't know what it's like to be like the Creator, all of those things are for us very airy-fairy. Right? Along the way it is. So what we need to do along the way is take from that story something that relates to our current state. Okay, the best way to learn the books of Kabbalah is to take that wisdom and apply it to the state that I am in right now. And the state that we're in, what's that state? Is our corporeal life. So we go to work, we've got family, work, the boss, my mates and friends, family, all kinds of issues, and all kinds of good and bad things in life. So the essence of the story we need to take here is this, that despite all the dramas that life may bring us, we stick it out. We carry on, and we don't give up trying to attain spirituality. This is what we can take from this. And one war after another, one war after another. I mean, here it's just 2 wars, but you know, you become a student of Kabbalah, it's a lot more than 1 war and 2 wars, simply because you're going through this process where you're constantly having to upgrade yourself, and it becomes a really, really charming game between you and life in order to become your next level, in order to become a new upgraded Stephen, now you've got to go through this war. And then the second version of you, the version 2, Stephen V2, is going to be the second war. And then you got the third and the fourth. And then all of a sudden, you got all kinds of things happening around you. But because we're studying and we're trying to understand, and we're actually getting ourselves into that direct relationship between me, life, and the Creator, then you begin to constantly build a new upgraded version. And that's when it starts to really become interesting as you get used to this game. Yeah.
And that was it.
That's it.
But Louise at Brighton says you're doing a really good job on her 50-inch screen TV.
Oh, that's very good. I'm glad I'm the star of the show tonight. Okay. Well, other than that, guys, this is the main topic for us. But what we're going to enter next week is, with Chris and Anthony while I'm not here, is free will. And we do have 20 minutes. So if you guys don't have any questions about why the Creator needs to be concealed and how we're supposed to reveal Him by attaining His attributes, if you don't have any questions on that, we can touch a little bit on how this topic is also related to the freedom of will. What do you guys think? Yeah, if you guys would like that, say yes, that would be great, or no, let's carry on doing a bit more of this about the concealment and the revelation. If I had this working, I'd probably do a lot more and we'd fill the 20 minutes. But because this isn't working, I'm just talking.
Stephen wrote, Stephen says, I read in the course text that there are desires not required to be brought into an equivalence of form with the Creator. He says 288 desires. What are these, and why 288 and not 280 or 300?
Okay, okay. Basically, where you read that, what you read is describing to us the structure of the soul. Okay. Just like our body has here worldly desires, in spirituality there's also a body, but that body is called a soul, and a soul is also named as a partsuf. It's a structure that can bestow to the Creator. Now in this world we have a few pleasures, right? Food, family, sex, money, control and honor and knowledge. At the end of the day, we've got six desires, and we're not running after all of them either. Some people are just happy with food, family, and sex, and that's it. And 21st century, some people are just happy with food and sex. That's it. Don't give me even family, because it's just freaking me out. Because people don't want to take responsibility anymore. So people just prefer to be alone, kind of like everybody's in their own corner. So that's our worldly desires. But in spirituality, we have a lot more desires, because there we have a connection with the Creator. And the desires are divided up in 288 and 365 in such a way that some of the desires that I can use actively in order to bestow, and there are some desires which I don't use at all, and that's bestowing also. So there are two ways to bestow. One is by not using the desire at all, and in another way is more active, when I'm really using the desire in order to bestow. So those are the two states, and that's why it's divided up into those numbers. It's basically just telling us overall we have 620 desires. 613 of them we need to correct, and that's how they're divided. And then the other 7 is called the lever Evan, the stony heart. And that last 7 are the really, really bad desires that we have, which we're going to reveal later on, which the Creator Himself is going to correct and fix. Yeah.
Now,
it's a way. It's actually related to spirituality is well, our world is a reflection of spirituality. So in our body also there's a number of bones, tendons, organs, and so they're all connected in such a way that in spirituality that's also how it's reflected, and that's where all those numbers come from as well.
Carmen from Romania is asking, how can it actually turn the action of receiving into bestowing?
Only
To whom do they give and what?
Okay. We can only turn, our nature, like we discussed before, is only a desire to receive. That's not going to change. We are always a desire to receive. That's not going to change. However, the intention can change. Our current intention in the way we use our desire to receive is to receive pleasure for ourselves. And receiving pleasure for ourselves is great. However, generally, it's at the expense of others. And that's why it's called egoism. Because I usually take from others in order to satisfy myself. That's called egoism. And ego is destructive because it hurts others. Let's face it, if I have to make money, how are we making money? Well, we usually make money if we want to really get rich. We're actually abusing everybody else that's working for us, or we want to use everybody else to make more than them. And the way I can do more than them is by not sharing what I'm making with them in a equal way. So they work for me, I pay them less, and so on. And think about all the politicians. How egoistic are they? They want to govern us and rule us. They want to tell us how we should live our lives. I mean, how egoistic is that? And imagine, if you look at the politicians nowadays, imagine getting advice from those guys.
They don't live by the same rules that they tell us to live by.
No, not at all. Just hypocrisy. All right, so just imagine, just look at the world leaders and imagine taking advice on how to live your life from those dorks. It's just not a good idea at all, is it? So what we want to do is we want to kind of get out of this state of being egoistic via the change of intention. So instead of being an egoistic desire to receive, we want to be a bestowing desire to receive. In that way, we can actually relate to the Creator, because the Creator is bestowal. He's a giver. We are a desire to receive. We are a taker. But we can equalize in the intention. The Creator wants to give us. He wants to make us happy by that action. We can say, okay, I'd like to take it, but only on the one condition, that if you're going to feel good about it. You see, getting the present from you, I don't care about. But the present that you want to give me is an excuse for me to make you happy because you want to give me that. But other than that, the present I don't really care about. I care about the relationship that we have. So the way we can bestow is only via that change of intention. That what I get from the Creator isn't important, but my relationship to Him, my attitude to Him, that's important.
Now we have a really interesting statement coming here from Zimbabwe, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on it. It's coming from Tish from Zimbabwe. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, sorry. It says, I'm having a challenge grasping the concept of overcoming the will to receive for self without compromising my career and my family and the like.
Okay, very good. So listen to me carefully, okay? The things we have to do in this world to live, we must do. So I have to go to work. I have to take care of my family, and I have to dedicate some time to them. So these are necessities. I have to take care of their health, their well-being, make sure they're healthy, they have food, they have shelter. The worldly necessities that we need to do in order to live properly in this world, we must do. Because if we don't do those, we won't be able to survive. We won't be able to live. Okay, if we don't take care of the family, what we're going to do, they're going to starve, I'm going to starve, everybody's going to starve to death. And we can't really attain spirituality, as you know, if we're dead. Okay, so we have to take care of ourselves. Food, family, our health, a regular normal life we must have and sustain. That you do. And there's no shame in it. There's nothing to feel bad about. It's a necessity. We have to do it. Now, once you've done all that, you look at how much spare time you have. Once you look at your spare time and you say, today I've got 1 hour extra time. You know what? I'm going to dedicate some time to reading. I'm going to read some Kabbalah because I also need to develop my soul. So on another day, you might say, I don't know, today I've got 45 minutes. So 45, maybe I'll watch a lesson for 45 minutes. Okay, so maybe one day you might say, I love watching football, but it's just weird watching 22 guys running after a ball. Maybe I'll just open a Kabbalah book and read it. Okay? Then you begin to start making decisions like that. So in time, it'll depend on how much you want to attain spirituality. It'll depend on how much you feel that this is important for you. And that comes via the study. That comes by studying. So don't have dilemmas about what you need to do. Your dilemma should be what you're doing in your free time. But the things you need to do, which are necessary for survival, for living, for maintaining a normal life, you must do. So don't feel bad. We're all doing it. There's nothing we can do about it. All Kabbalists had jobs. All of them. All of them. Adam was a farmer. Noah was a carpenter. All of them was... Moses was a shepherd. David was a shepherd too. So like all Kabbalists had a job. They were fishermen, they were tailors, they were woodmen, chopped woods for a living. There was a famous Kabbalist, he used to be a shoemaker. Which is actually in Bala Sulam's books, in his stories. So there are all kinds of Kabbalists, and all of them had jobs. They all worked. Rabash worked, Bala Sulam worked, Rav worked. We're all working as well. So there's nothing to feel bad about. Yeah.
And that was our last question.
Great, because it's a nice, valid question. Because the things we need to do for survival is not for our desire to receive for ourselves in an egoistic way. It's what we need to do according to how the world is. So don't worry about it. It's all good. Everyone has to work according to what their country's situation is, what the world's situation is, and we just have to make a living like normal people do. There we go. Well, we got only 9 minutes, so we can't go into the topic of free will as much as I'd like to. However, what we can talk about here is this, how this topic relates to free will. Had we seen the Creator, if He was available to us, it would delete the ability for us to make a decision, to choose. Imagine a person who doesn't have a dot in the heart. He doesn't wonder about the purpose of life. He's not really questioning why he's living. A lot of people in the world, everybody has a dot in the heart, but it hasn't awakened yet. So they just live a normal life. But because our nature is a desire to receive self-pleasure and fulfillment, and it's an automated program, it's a software that's embedded in us and it's constantly functioning in that way, we can't really say we have free will at all. Any person out there on the street, the only free choice they have is nothing. You can't have free choice if you're in one nature. Just like animals, they're in one nature. How much free choice can they have? Nothing. Same with the majority of the world. Unless you have a dot in the heart that's really wondering about the meaning of life, and you've decided to be spiritual, and now you want to choose between spirituality and this world, unless you're in that dilemma, Nobody has free choice. The rest of the world is just going according to how things really surface inside themselves. If you also look at your lives before you came to Kabbalah, you'll notice too how you were living. You know, things just, desires just popped up, thoughts just popped up, and you were just drawn to those desires and thoughts, and that's how you lived your life. Anything from choosing your career to choosing your food from a menu. A lot of people think that, you know, I can choose what to eat. You don't choose what to eat because you're a desire to receive pleasure at that moment. What you feel is going to give you the greatest pleasure is what you choose. That's not a free choice if that's how I'm programmed. It's like telling a robot you got free choice. What free choice has he got if he's programmed? And same with us. Our nature is just a program. It's just running on autopilot. That's it. So free choice can only happen when we're in between two states, two opposite states, where we're inside a dilemma and there's concealment. Otherwise, you can't have free choice. So these are very important things to keep in mind. So sometimes somebody might come up and say, well, why isn't the Creator revealed then? Well, you can now you know what to tell them. Say, listen, dude, if he was, we'd never have free choice. So these are very important topics that we need to keep in mind. A lot of people in spirituality complain about the Creator being concealed. But if you think about it from slightly a higher level of perspective, from a higher, let's say, level, then you can really logically understand why the Creator needs to be revealed, needs to be concealed, and how we should be revealing it. Not Him opening Himself up, but we should be revealing it and earning that state. So we keep our independence all the time. So we're not swallowed up in this swamp. Because why is it going to be a swamp? Otherwise, I'll never be able to get out of that state. We'll all, because of our nature, we'll be like drug addicts. We'll constantly want to get pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. And we'll just be running around in circles. But Free Will Lesson 8 next week is going to delve into that even more with Chris and Anthony. And then the week after we're going to do another lesson on free will as well. There are 2 lessons on free will.
And we'll be looking forward to seeing you here next week. We'll be really excited. Oh, we got another question that just came in from Mr. Gerald Coleman in Liberia. And he's asking, in our lifetime, the dot in the heart does not activate and we die with, what happens to our soul or self with regard to oneness with the Creator?
Well, nothing really happens, because unless we attain oneness with the Creator, nothing is happening. Okay, for example, you might see on the street, sometimes a car hits a cat or a dog, right? And the cat and the dog, or the dog, they die. Same with us. We just end up dead. There's nothing in spirituality related to our bodies. Also, a soul, like I said earlier in the lesson, is a state where I'm in a sensory situation, where I'm sensing the Creator. I'm in that perception of reality where I have another reality on top of my corporeal reality. Therefore, if a person has attained his soul while living here, then he has a soul, then his body's death is irrelevant, because it's like changing a shirt. It's like changing your underwear, right? Your underwear gets old, you throw it away and get some new ones. Same here. Also, the way we relate to the body is not much different. But the soul is something we need to attain while we live here. If we haven't attained it, well, we're just going to have to go through that process until we attain it.
Now, Varga from Romania is asking, do you believe that only through suffering you can become a giver?
the purpose of life is not suffering. The purpose of life is actually to be happy. So you're probably wondering, with all the dramas in the world, how are we going to be happy? Well, look, suffering is a necessity because of our nature's stubbornness. The Creator has to pinch us so we move. If you had a good, comfortable life, you wouldn't move. You'd just be happy, you'd be okay. So the Creator says, oh, let's get him to move. 2 ways to move in life. 1, with a dangling carrot in front of you. And 2 is a whip on your bum. That's how the donkey moves. So the Creator uses pleasure and pain to bring us to the goal. But suffering is not the point of life. Suffering is a good tool that I can use in order to make a leap and go forward. So this is why, as we study in the wisdom of Kabbalah, as we learn more and more, and if you study with us later on, you'll relate to suffering in a much more effective, efficient, and useful way. Because suffering won't seem like suffering to you after a while. It'll feel like it's an opportunity that you need to use now to start building your next level.
Now, Gerald is asking, is there no returning spirit or reincarnation?
There is reincarnation, but reincarnation is not like me dying and then me coming back. Because I'll tell you why. Because we're all part of one system. Otherwise the population would be fixed. So it's not a head count. It's a spiritual development count. Okay? So we'll look into that a bit more in detail right now. If I could draw, I'll explain it to you a bit better. Simply because the whole of creation is one desire to receive, and we're all parts of it. And that part divides to many parts and many parts and many parts. Just like the cells in our body. Right? We have a lot of cells that die off every day, but that specific cell doesn't come back. New cells come back, and those new cells can now adapt to the body, okay, in the way that it is right now. It renews itself, right? The cells renew themselves. But it's not like a head count. It's not like the reincarnation you might have read somewhere, that I'm dying and then I'm coming back. It's not quite like that. Yes.
And I think that was our last one.
All right, no, you guys are not asking a lot of questions. You know, I was teaching yesterday. I was teaching the Turkish group yesterday. I also speak Turkish. So I was teaching them, and I'm going to teach them tomorrow. They don't give me a break. They're just constantly asking questions. All right, because I'm doing one topic with them by the time, I do an hour and a half with them. And they go, why can't we do 2 hours? I said, because we can't, because we've got morning lesson. We've got to get up in the morning for the morning lesson. So we can't extend it even more, but they're just raiding us and hammering us and just giving us a hailstorm of questions. Now, if you want to advance, asking questions is very important because it clarifies everything that's not clear. So if there's anything not clear and I haven't answered, you should write them down in your book, right? You should have a notebook by now. So write them down in your notebooks, things that are not clear, so that you can raise them up in the next lessons and stuff. And like I said, our 11th lesson is going to be a tea party. So bring your cakes and teas and whatever. And then we'll sit down and we'll just have a question and answer session. And we'll clean everything up, clear all the questions and queries from the previous lessons. And then we're going to move on to semester number 2. All right, now it's 11:02 here, so we're just about ready to wrap it up. Yeah? Okay, cool. Everybody got the message. I guess that's what Louise is saying anyway. Hope you guys will have a great week. I'm sure Anthony and Chris will really look after you well, and I'll see you guys on the following Tuesday. Take care. All the best.
Bye-bye. See you later.